first day of spring, and I just wanna sing to everything that's moving, every single little thing. To them birds flying free, fish in the sea, flowers and trees, every little bumblebee. I wanna sing, ooh, ah, oh. To the kids playing hoops, going loop-de-loop, the rainbow-colored bouncy balls and their ice cream scoops. Got my shoes in my hand and my feet in the
Last week's video, I took you guys to one of my favorite local lakes where I shoot my landscape photography, and I did a self-portrait on a big massive rock that is half submerged in the water. And in this week's video, I am taking you guys up a little bit higher above the same lake where I'm going to do another self-portrait under some stormy weather. So I'm currently on a cliffside right now, just getting ready to do a self-portrait. I'm going to wait a couple more hours for the light to change, but I got up here early so I could try and find a really good composition up here, because this is an area that I've been trying to photograph many times. It is a local hike in the area. It's about 1 kilometer. It's fairly steep, but it's pretty short, so it's not hard to do. But I am often struggle photographing up here because I find there's a lot of deadfall everywhere, and usually the grass is all dried up and there's a lot of dirt. There's usually not the most pleasing foregrounds to photograph up here, but I figure for a self-portrait, if I can find a spot to put myself, then the view is totally worth it, and it would work really well with a self-portrait. My plan is to use the yellow dress tonight because there's a lot of green up here, and the lake is kind of a grayish, it's not blue or anything, but it's like a grayish green as well, and I find that yellow and green really work well together. I was going to use a green dress, but I think I'm going to bring that out for more forest shoots rather than big epic view shoots. And it also happens to be pretty stormy this evening, so I figure that the warmth of the dress is going to contrast nicely against the stormy sky. It's a really nice evening out tonight. This is my favorite weather. I love this. It's summertime, but it's a little bit chilly that you still kind of need to wear a jacket. It's perfect. The flowers are all now in bloom. The balsam root is pretty much finished. I think it depends what area you are in. There might be some more closer to the Kamloops region that are more in full bloom, but up here they're pretty much done. There is some other variety of flower in bloom up here, but I'm not actually quite sure what this one is called. So if you do know what it is called, leave a comment for me and let me know. Otherwise, I'll have to go and do some Googling on this flower. It grows in some pretty big patches in some pretty good spots, and if you can get close enough to it, it would actually make a really good foreground. So I'm going to shoot this with the Canon 16-35. I don't think I'll be shooting at 16. I'll probably shoot more closer to 35 because it is slightly too wide in this spot, and there's a mountain in the scene that it just spreads way too far, and it's really big. It's not the most photographable mountain in the area, and I find that it takes up a lot of the scene. And then another challenge of this scene is that the trees to the left I also find a little distracting because it's very one-sided, but maybe the trees and then the mountain will balance each other out and kind of form this composition that all the lines just lead into me on the rock. That is my goal. It's very similar to the one that I did last week. It's with the same mountain scene and the same water. It's just that I'm up high this time versus down on the ground. Ollie's just walking around on the cliffside like he's a mountain goat, and it terrifies me because it is steep. Again, you can't really see it, but I'm on a slant like this, so I'm sitting on my butt in the dirt to hopefully not kind of roll back down. But oh, there he goes. Ollie just navigates this hillside like nothing. It's amazing what animals can do. Obviously, like all sunsets or all sunrises, who knows if there's going to be any color or anything crazy happening in the sky. Since it is a little bit stormy out, I think that there is definitely some potential for some good color, but it doesn't really matter to me anymore. When you shoot landscape photography for so long, I think that the colorful skies you just end up getting over, because you know that it's pretty rare when it happens. Maybe like, who knows, 5 a year, you might get lucky and get some pretty good light and color. And I think it's really important that you adapt to the weather and the light that you're given, and don't give up, and don't, just because it's kind of moody or stormy or something, or not the nice bright pinks or bright oranges, I don't think that should ever stop you from trying to make images. So that's kind of my plan this evening. Is I knew coming up here that it was probably going to be a little bit stormy, so that means moody clouds, cool tones, cool colors, and I know that by pairing the yellow dress against it, it'll pop. It will really work out well, and doing a long exposure also adds a lot of drama and mood to a scene, which is why I do so many long exposures. Basically what I'm trying to say is you can get good images just about anywhere, in any conditions. Don't give up. Just keep shooting. So I'm currently on a pretty steep hillside here. There's a rock that kind of sticks out from it, and I have found that this is going to be the best place to do a self-portrait composition wise, but there is still a lot of clouds, which is really, really cool, and they honestly should get some pretty good color in them. I can't see why they wouldn't. There's kind of, I thought maybe that they would actually be blowing away, but it seems to be that more are blowing in, so I guess it could fizzle. It totally depends. I actually never check clouds or anything like that before I go out on a shoot. I just kind of see what the sky is up to, and then I go to wherever I think that they're gonna hang around and hope for the best. This is my composition here. It's kind of, the sun has gone down, so sadly there's no more nice side light that was kind of hitting these hills. But I'm gonna sit right here on the rock, and then we have the dark trees right here, and then I'm hoping that this mountain over here is balancing it out. So I just took the self-portrait. I actually ended up standing. That was perfect to fill in that kind of empty void of the water in the middle ground. And I was shooting at ISO 200 tonight, f8, and my shutter speed was 1/60th of a second, and that was pretty much perfect. Some good movement in the dress. The composition actually works really, really well, and the yellow pops against all of the green that is kind of around the mountains and all the green trees. Green and yellow are a perfect color combination, I find, even more so better than red. So I'm just doing the long exposure now, and you would think because it's so windy out that the clouds would be moving really, really fast and zooming along, but nope, they're not. They're hardly moving at all. So I'm kind of changing my thought process as I go along here. I mean, I was kind of expecting to have some good side light here, but I got up a little bit too late, and then the clouds came in and blocked the sun. So then I moved into plan B, which is to, when I edit this image, since there's not a lot of color in the clouds right now, I'm going to go with an edit of having my yellow dress pop against the blue of the rest of the scene. I think that that's going to work best for this, because I don't want to walk away without an image. I'm determined. Every time I go out and shoot, I'm always determined to get an image, no matter what, even if I have to kind of like tweak my final thought. That's just kind of how landscape photography works, or in this case, self-portrait landscape photography. You have to be willing to adapt to the scene and the weather and all that stuff that is thrown at you. If you haven't already, this is a really, really good time to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on all my future videos. So before I show you guys the full edited image, I wanted to show you the 2 raw files first that I used to put this together. In the first one, it is the image of me, and that's the only part that I am actually using from this image is just of me. I shot it at f8, 1/60th of a second, and ISO 200. Not really sure who I shot it at ISO 200. I could have used 100, but whatever. Does no harm. I also shot it at 35 mil. And for the long exposure part, I shot that at f11 for 86 seconds and at ISO 100. I shot the long exposure shot a little bit wider at 16 mil because I just wanted to make sure I had enough sky. I usually always do that. I kind of like to make sure that if I can shoot the sky as wide as possible, then I will, and that way I can kind of use what I want from it. If you kind of crop in and shoot at 35, then you might be missing a lot of cool parts of the sky, especially when you're doing a long exposure. So when I blend these together, it is pretty much just me putting myself into the long exposure image. The hardest part about doing this, I find, is selecting around hair. I have a lot of hair, so when it's windy, there's lots of flyaways. That's probably the biggest challenge for me, but usually I'm wearing such a brightly colored dress that the contrast makes it really, really easy to select around myself and copy myself into the other image. And here is the final edit. And as I was saying before, when I was going through the shooting process, my thoughts kind of kept changing as the light and the clouds were changing. And I pretty much knew the result of the long exposure that I was gonna get. So immediately, I kind of decided already exactly where I was gonna take this with my editing. Going with the warmth of my dress against the coolness of the rest of the scene. There is obviously a little bit of light coming from the right of the frame, which I think really helps kind of add to the separation of the image from me and the background. I did crop in a little bit on this image because I just didn't really like too much of the foreground where there's the little bush on the left and then too much of the rock was showing. That's probably my least favorite part about this image actually is that bush in the left-hand side. I just kind of find it leaves it off balance a little bit. But other than that, I actually really, really like this scene. And now that I have shot there and I know what is possible, I'm actually gonna go back up and probably start experimenting and doing a few more compositions here. And I'll try to get some with maybe some different lenses and sitting down. And I know that it looks like I'm standing right on the edge, but I can assure you it was like, it is the edge, but it's not really the edge. It just kind of looks like one little push and I would just topple over. It wasn't as dangerous as it appears in this video. Anyways, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I made a lot of mistakes when filming this video, but the good thing about that is I have learned a lot. And that's kind of the whole point. I find that this one is not my strongest one yet, but that's okay because the next ones, it can just keep on improving and improving. I would really, really like it if you guys would like this video, as this, again, it helps me bust through the algorithm. And of course, subscribe if you want to keep seeing more content. I think that the self-portraits are quite popular, and I definitely plan to continue doing more of these type of videos in the future. Tomorrow I'm actually headed back out to a place I was just photographing where there was meadows of flowers, and I plan to vlog that. So subscribe and stay tuned for that. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye!